and welcome to Hot Flush Lawyers, the podcast where we discuss the menopause and its impact with business leaders, healthcare professionals, and other inspirational women who bring to life their personal experiences of the menopause, discuss how times have changed, and share how the menopause has affected them in their lives and careers. Now, over to our two hosts, Clare Thornton and Amanda Gait. We hope you enjoy this episode of Hot Flush Lawyers.
Okay, welcome everybody to Hot Flush Lawyers, sponsored by Thornton Jones Solicitors of West Yorkshire and North Yorkshire, actually. I'm Clare Thornton, Managing Director of Thornton Jones, and my co-host is Amanda Gait.
Hello.
Also of Thornton Jones. And today's guests are Helen Knowles, who is the Director of Income Generation and Marketing at Wakefield Hospice.
Hello.
And Melanie Milnes, who's Head of People and Culture, also at the hospice.
Hello.
Hello, and very welcome to you, and thanks for coming along.
Thank you for asking us.
So we are here to talk about all things menopause, and in particular around our careers and the impact it's had on us. So how have you found it, Helen? Tell us a bit about yourself and your journey.
My journey. I had to have a hysterectomy when I was about 34.
Oh, gosh.
So I'd had my two children, and I remember going to see a local gynaecologist because I had some precancerous cells. And I'd always had, right from the get-go, horrendous periods, stomachache and everything else. Tried all sorts of medication, drugs. Even went on, tried the pill, which, because I suffered from migraines, they worked for a while. Anyway, made the decision, and interestingly, Mel and I were talking about this in the car coming. The consultant did say to me, well, what happens if the kids die?
Oh.
And I remember thinking, bizarre thing, well, I'm not just going to go and have two other children, even if I could.
Like some replacements.
Well, that's exactly what it was like.
Let's move on and have some
Yeah.
more.
I just thought, bizarre. Anyway, the day I went in, it was so right, because I had a horrendous stomachache and everything else. Had my hysterectomy. I remember coming round from having this hysterectomy, and they left my ovaries behind because I was so young. And do you know what? One of the first things my ex-husband said to me at the time is, when can she have sex? That's probably why he's my ex-husband. So that was one of the first things. And the other thing that he said to me is, you will never know when you go into menopause. It will just happen.
Oh, suddenly?
Suddenly.
Right.
Because I had my ovaries, and that is exactly what happened. I suddenly started having hot flushes. Mm-hmm. And for work, that was awful. When I was doing the dinners, whatever I was doing, I hated this hot flush, and I just remember it and giving me the most awful headache, because it kind of came from my feet. And when it got to the top of my head, when my head felt as though it was going to explode, perspiration running down the back of my neck, I knew that was the end of it for that particular time.
How old were you then, Helen? How long after the hysterectomy was it? Was it a long time?
I think I probably started around 50. I mean, I'm 66 now.
Oh, gosh, I didn't realise you were that old. You look great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not that old, but that's me with my verbal diary.
But, and other than that, I remember going to my GP as well and asking for any support. And the only reason I went, probably at that time, was to do with the hot flushes. And because my friend had been, and she got HR, patches and pills or whatever, or injections. And I remember going to my GP, and she said, well, you can try all these herbal things. And I got absolutely nothing. Yeah. No support at all.
So you never had HRT?
I never had anything.
Oh, gosh.
Absolutely nothing. And all I kept doing, every time I went and complained, they did a blood test to tell me whether my ovaries were still working. And that was it. Oh, I never had anything. But I also said to Mel, I never remember my mother having... I never remember her talking about it.
Oh, gosh, no.
I never remember her saying how she was feeling, whether it was anything. At all.
No, that was a complete...
So kind of that was, and I just got on with it.
Yeah.
Never had what we had today.
And how long did it go on for, your sort of
It probably
symptoms?
went on for about 5 years,
Yeah.
6 years. But I always, my migraines, they say, were linked to hormones anyway. And again, Mel said, did you have any mood swings? Well, one of my symptoms for migraines is I will become irritable for no apparent reason. And you could say to me, Helen, I need you to do X, Y, Z. I would do it to the letter, but it'd be still wrong. And it'd be only after the migraine, but they always said it was linked
to your hormones?
my hormones, because I started with migraines when I was 12.
Oh gosh. So
Started periods.
when your periods, yeah.
So started periods at 14. And no matter what I did, and they kept saying I'll grow out of them. Well, I haven't grown out of them
You
yet.
still get them now?
Still get them now. Don't get them as bad.
Yeah.
But no, not grown out of them.
Oh,
So
dear.
that was kind of how I've had nothing.
That's very
No
similar to
support.
Shelley, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we had on. She had a very similar experience to that, where she's just sort of got
Going
on
to-
with it,
yeah.
and she didn't get any assistance at all, really.
But she's only young. She's only 50, early 50s, isn't she? I
Yeah.
think. Oh no, just 50, I think.
And I think
Yeah.
we link a lot of the menopause to the periods. So with the absence of periods, because you've had a hysterectomy, you're not linking that cycle changes. Same for people who use Mirena coil or some contraception, what stop them having periods. They don't realise they're still having the cycles.
Yeah.
Or they're still having the mood swings in the cycles. They're just not putting it down to that.
Yeah, because they don't have the actual.
Because they don't have the periods and then go, oh yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It just moves on. So I think that can be a big thing, because most people, the periods are the thing what says, oh, something's changing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
It's gone a
starts
bit erratic,
going,
or it's got heavier, or it's got lighter, or it's just changed. That's generally the first sign. And I know when I went at 44 to see a GP, and she said, oh, you're too young. We'll do some tests, but you're too young. Come back in a few years.
It's amazing how it's changed, isn't it? Because now if you go over 40, really, they'll
45.
45, the definitely.
45 for no tests.
Yeah.
But I really put me off ever speaking
Cool.
about it again. And I went back. I went for something else. I started to have chronic urticaria, so hives all over my skin. No apparent reason. Just started one day.
Oh.
And since, and I now have to take medication every 3 weeks. I have to have injections to stop it. And the doctor has said, oh, it's
Menopause.
one of the menopause symptoms.
Really? That's
one
a
of
new
those
one.
very random.
It is.
We
We
haven't
get a
come
new
across
one.
that.
We get a new one every
time,
time,
yeah.
don't we?
A really random thing, but it can be caused at that time
hormones.
of life. But that doctor who was dealing with me said, oh, well, how are you with your menopause? How are you? And at that point, I'm 47. She said, do you want to try anything? So she brought the conversation up, and she said, go off and have a look at the balance things, which I already knew about, and I'd already done quite a lot of research, but I was really pleased to be using those kind of references and asking me what I wanted and what I would like to try.
That's really positive.
It was a really positive experience.
And what was balance? I don't know what
The Balance app, the
app.
Yeah,
Ah.
Louise Newsom. So she signposted me there to have a look and to decide what I wanted to try. And
So
go
what
from there.
So are you on HRT?
So yeah, so I started on gel. I'm still on gel, but I have tried the spray and patches in between.
Right.
Didn't seem to absorb the other two as well, so went back to the gel and progesterone.
How old are you?
51.
So are you still
I'm
perimenopausal?
perimenopausal.
Yeah. And how are you finding it?
Yeah, I think I'm okay at the moment. I still have a lot of problems with periods, so I'm still at that point where
It's horrible.
when I moved to the hospice 2.5 years ago. Before that was in engineering, which was more difficult to,
With a load of men.
very
Oh, yeah.
So when you sat in a meeting and you feel a flood and
Yeah.
you're not sure if your
God,
breast
actually
has gone
showing.
gone through,
Yeah.
you can't really ask your male mate to check, which is lovely working with women, because I can just say, can you just check my bum when I get up, please? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's fine, and it's quite normal. But when I worked in with men, and we used to have a stand-up meeting every morning, and some mornings I didn't want to stand up and didn't feel I had
No.
to lean against the
Oh,
wall
I know. Must
to
be
do it. But I
awful.
wasn't in a position to put my hand up and say, oh, by the way, it just wasn't the environment for it.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. I thought it was funny anyway. I was interviewing somebody for a job, and it was wear yellow for Cancer Day or yellow, one of those days. So I was wearing this fairly light coloured yellow dress that I got it was the only thing I could find in my wardrobe. And I was interviewing her, and I stood up to show around the office, and she said, oh, Claire, you've leaked on your dress, like massive red, huge red stain down the back of my dress. This is only about 2 years ago. And I said, oh my God, I've got nothing else to wear. So she said, oh, I'm just in the middle of moving houses. I've got a lot of clothes in my car if you want. So she went out and got me a dress from her boot, which I put on. It was wonderful. And then when she got the job, obviously, and then I washed it, gave it back as she started. I thought, God, in a male environment, there's just no way you could have gone and got it must have been awful for you.
It was definitely a difficult.
Is that why you left then? Because of those things? Or
No,
you left
no.
anyway.
Right. I left anyway, but I wanted to go and work at the hospice.
Yeah,
it's just such a wonderful place to work.
I bet it is. Yeah. I'm much more supportive of things like that, I should imagine.
Yes, and I've been able to bring in the menopause accreditation, and our demographic is mainly women of an age where they're either perimenopausal or menopausal.
Okay.
So the majority of our workforce are in that position, and we're 95% female.
Okay.
So it will
Very similar
it will
to
be.
us.
Yeah.
Although we've got quite a lot of young
age-wise,
ladies. We've got.
But our younger ladies are going to get there at some
They
point.
are.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
And we've done quite a lot of it. We've done a lot of information. I've done training for all our employees across the board. And actually, one of the greatest ones was doing a session at the warehouse, which is where we have more men. And one of the younger men came up to me afterwards and said, "Wow, that was really informative." And he had a girlfriend who had polycystic ovary syndrome, and he was able to identify some of those issues, what she was having, and it was really, it wasn't a conversation I was expecting to have. So I've done lots of training. But what's valuable about doing it is having open conversations.
Yeah.
Sitting in the dining room and talking about these things, and people feeling it's a safe environment to say, "Oh, I've just tried this," or "I've just tried that," and actually identifying. I've had conversations with people who hadn't even considered it being the menopause. They've gone to the GP and come back a few months later and said, "Wow, that's changed my life."
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was going mad.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was the menopause, and I think I said last time if somebody had actually suggested to me it was the menopause, I would have stabbed them. But it was, but because all of the symptoms were not what I'd class as menopausal symptoms, didn't have any of the hot flushes or anything like that, nothing at all.
But that's all I had.
Is that all you?
That's
But you didn't have the cycle
but
problems.
I suppose No, I didn't, and I didn't recognise anything
You
else.
wouldn't have
I wasn't
recognised that.
given anything else. And I suppose all I did. So for me, when I hear everything nowadays that everybody's got, in a way, I kind of feel as though I've missed out on something because I had nothing.
I could tell you haven't.
Absolutely nothing. No support, nothing.
Did you get was it night sweats as well as day?
Yeah.
The night sweats were the worst thing for me.
Yeah.
And that stops you sleeping, and then you can't. Then focusing at work is really hard because you're absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
And some people don't identify it because when the worst of the menopause, lots of other things are going on. Kids are leaving home, parents are becoming ill or dying. So it's a really challenging time anyway. There can be career changes. So all of those other things can absorb the menopause. And I've spoken to some ladies in the 60s who said didn't identify it at the time, but there was a 5-year period where my whole life went upside down. I got divorced. I did this, I did that. Yeah. And actually, they were probably all symptoms of the menopause. That's when they suddenly woke up, looked at the husband and thought, "Yeah, not for me, thanks," and got divorced. And that's the lack of estrogen. Losing the
and the lack of testosterone as well. I'm a massive testosterone fan.
Yeah, I know. I never had any testosterone.
But your estrogen tends to be your Mrs. Nice Guy. Keeping things smooth,
yeah.
So without that,
when that load goes, then
you lose that button, and you're not quite as tolerant, which can lead to a lot of relationship breakdowns. And for for some relationships, it's just that. For other relationships, it's that sudden loss of libido. Don't want anything to do with the partner anymore in that way either. So relationships can break down.
But that comes back.
For both reasons.
We're just giving all the ladies out there hope. You say that comes back, don't you?
It does, yes, absolutely.
Which is great.
It's
good to know that there's.
But by then your husband's in
whatever
menopause they go through, and
and
they're like, "Nah,
I can't be. I'm too tired."
I think that's why they swap them for younger versions. To be frank,
Yeah.
But it does come back. I think
that's really good.
Yeah,
because it gives us the people who are in perimenopause some hope that we might come out the other side.
Well, the men are doing their andropause.
Is that what it's called?
Version, yeah. And I think the best way to describe the NHS have got a really cutting line on the webpage that says something like, "This in no way can be compared to the female menopause."
Oh, good. So don't try.
Try it.
And we had a chap, and I explained to him, if you took your 40-year-old self and your 60-year-old self and put them side by side, you'd see the differences.
Yeah.
But because your hormones kind of went like that over a 20-year period, you don't notice it, where a woman's hormones do that. And you'll have seen the graphs where that's literally what they do, which explains you go from here to here to here.
Yeah.
So we've got this,
just for the people that are listening, that means so it's a gentle curve for the men downwards, whereas for the women it's spiky, very
crazy spiky
yeah.
for a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
So you feel all that change all of a sudden.
And
where
people
for a
notice
man,
it.
You'd have to compare yourself at 40 and yourself at 60 and see those differences in energy, in sex drive,
in shouting at the telly, tolerance of things,
driving.
But you don't hear much about that.
No, you don't. But that'll be the next thing, won't it?
Yeah.
As women, I'm sure I can certainly say I've seen a change in my husband. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still lovely, but there's definitely that sort of intolerance of things that you used to be able to be calm about. Suddenly he's raging about something ridiculous. Usually on the telly, usually football or driving is definitely the anger towards other drivers is weird. Really, he was always very
more tired.
Tired, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're
describing my husband.
There you go. But it must be right, mustn't it? Their hormones do drop just like ours.
It's just
do.
not as dramatic, so you don't see that dramatic change.
Right.
Interesting. That's why we need to get some men on.
We do, yeah.
We keep saying that.
And for men to understand that their wives don't suddenly not love them overall. Sometimes they might, but sometimes it's worth hanging in there because they, just then they will come out the other side.
Yeah. And
which I'm glad my husband did, because I think I put him through hell. I honestly do think, looking back at the way that I was a different human being for about 3 or 4 years, and it was awful. So how he ever put up with it and lived with me, I think it's a credit to him that he's so laid back.
Yeah.
And
I asked him, moved to Carlisle.
Yeah, I mean, he works away from home, so so we've got that bonus as well. So, but I did ask him. I said, do you remember how bad it was? And he made some flippant comment about, I remember how frigid you were. And then laughed and then said, I just remember you being just like crumbling, all your self-confidence had gone. You were a completely shell of your former self, and I didn't know what was happening and didn't know
what to do.
Didn't know what to do. I don't think he did. But I think that was before, for want of a better word, I got the diagnosis that it was the menopause. I think that, as I've said quite a few times, it was just a freeing thing. It was to make you feel like, actually, I'm not mad. I'm not completely and utterly insane.
So how do we ever move forward? Because there's got to be a point when they've got to have the same information as we have to be able to support us, because I think that's missing as it stands at the moment. My husband doesn't understand that side of it, because I don't think anybody's really sat him down and talked to him and explained it all to him.
No, well, we don't.
They don't.
And I think it's getting better, if I'm entirely honest with you, and certainly I've seen it over the past 2 or 3 years. It's got better. The conversations I think that we're having as women openly means that they're, to a certain extent, are picking up on that information. And as I said, my husband, even to me, said the other week, he said, "Oh, there's a lady in the office and I can tell that she's perimenopausal, when she's on the phone to somebody saying, I can't find my phone, where is it?"
Oh, I do that. That's a daily occurrence.
He said, but I daren't raise it with her. So I think it's moving forward, but I do think that they possibly haven't got the wherewithal to have the conversations with people yet.
So how will that ever?
Well, I think
it's moving.
It goes with the education what we've done. We haven't excluded men. We've included them. We invite them to all things menopause, and when we do the training, we say this is for you and for your wives. It's not just it might be you're working with women who are demonstrating some of these. It might be that it's your mum, it might be that it's your wife, it might be that it's your sister, or there's people in your life you are going to be impacted by the menopause if you're a man or a woman, and really trying to have those conversations.
But that's us being progressive. I'm sure we could go into 70% of businesses that will not have that.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
just
true.
know that now.
I think that is true.
Absolutely.
Especially in businesses that are run by
By
men
men.
who don't have that. We've got a reason to do it because we've experienced it or have experienced it ourselves.
Yeah.
But you're right. There'll be lots of workplaces that have got no idea.
And the media have such an important role in this, and not helped by programmes like Panorama just did a recent one about everything being meno-washed. It was about, so if you've got some multivitamins and you write meno on it, menopause on it, it doubles the price. So it was kind of the thought process was around that, but then it started to talk about Louise Newsom overprescribing estrogen, which actually in reality she has private patients who she'll be testing and will be keeping safe, but the accusations were made, which could be damaging to a really positive menopause advocate who's done so much great work.
She's been amazing. I read all her stuff before, and when I went to the doctors about my symptoms, which were largely flushes as well, and a bit of anxiety, the doctor said to me, "What do you know about the menopause?" And I said, "Well, I've read all this that Dr. Louise Newsom's done." And she said, "Fine, you can have it. You can have HRT." Because she knew that I'd read the stuff.
Going to say.
I thought she was brilliant, but yeah, I did see that news article.
And it was 30 minutes of TV. What they could have used so much better to highlight. Actually, going to the doctors is a real problem. Not everybody can get in with somebody who knows what they're talking about, which was actually the key message in it. But that's not what came out. Came out, and then you get your sort of naysayers saying, "Oh, have you seen that programme on menopause? It's all which is like in 1991 when they
stopped the
HRT,
yeah.
and there's a whole generation of women now struggling with dementia and arthritis and osteoporosis because they were scared to take it.
Yeah, I was.
You were for a long time.
I was for a long time, and actually, I wasn't prescribed HRT until I was menopausal. I had effectively hadn't had a period for 2 years, and sort of got through it without. And I decided
you were prescribed antidepressants.
Antidepressants,
anxiety medications.
But to be honest with you, that was the right thing for me because my main symptom was that I had panic attacks and anxiety, and I couldn't drive, and it was and that was the main sort of symptoms that I had.
Can't remember anything.
I couldn't. Well, yeah, that's still the case, to be honest with you. But I decided that I wanted to try HRT just because I'd done my own research on it actually and thought, well, all of this stuff that I've been fed for years and years and years is a load of rubbish. But even then, going to the doctors, I had to fight to get it, I had to sit there and explain to him what HRT did and why I needed it, and this young lad who was sat in front of me, and I'm like, just prescribe it for me, I want it now.
I don't understand why they don't get trained on it when
50%. There is training, mandatory training coming and being rolled out.
Oh, good. Well, let's hope it hurries up.
I think the best thing I heard about HRT was if you take a contraceptive pill, that takes over your whole hormones, so that then manages your hormones. HRT is a top up. So HRT doesn't take over your hormones; it just tops up your levels.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that explains HRT a much better way, and takes away some of those fears of actually you're just removing one set of hormones with new hormones.
Replacing.
So it's not. It shouldn't be called replacement. It should be called topping up.
Yeah,
and
topping up therapy.
That would make much sense.
Yeah, because it's not replacing them, is it?
No, it's not.
You've got your hormones. It's just that they've depleted.
But if you think about the contraceptive pill, that kind of does replace your hormones because it makes them work in a different way, so you don't get pregnant. Where HRT doesn't do that.
No.
It doesn't stop you being pregnant. But I saw a gynaecologist a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, what you want?" I said, "HRT." She said, "So when did you stop your periods?" I said, "Oh, I didn't." "Well, you went on HRT before you stopped your periods."
What? A gynaecologist?
And that was a gynaecologist.
A female gynaecologist?
Female gynaecologist.
What?
Who just didn't have that information. And I've heard that from other people.
It's crazy, isn't it?
That
Wow.
they just don't
'Cause-
have that information. You would just expect them to know.
Well, you,
what
a
they do.
gynaecologist particularly, you would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's very worrying.
So it'd be interesting to know how, bearing in mind I've had nothing,
Yeah,
what happens to me
going
moving on.
forwards. I think you might be able to still
You
get
still
it.
can get it. You can get it if you
Because I've
want
had-
it.
But I don't know.
I think
I
you
don't-
can.
Oh, gosh,
then
yeah,
again-
I have. I
Yeah,
got
but
it.
maybe I don't
So
know as
what
old
would be
as...
the benefits for me now?
So what they say is if you're within 10 years of your last period, or when your last period would have been, so when you stopped having hot flushes probably for you,
Say
then it
56.
can still be beneficial.
I'd have been-
Any time after that, there's more risks associated.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
yeah, so
That's
there'd be
what
more
they-
risks.
But if you were menopausing 50 to 55,
Mm.
you'll just gone
Just
over
be
10
over.
years, won't you?
It'll be things like your bone density and things like
Well,
that.
strangely enough, they did. I did break my wrist. I've only broken something once. Broke my wrist. They did check all my bone density, and that was probably about 4 years ago, and it was fine.
But you also do all the right things. You do strength training. You keep
Yeah.
yourself fit. You keep yourself active.
Which
So
is
you do all the
so I
right things
suppose
for
that's
yourself.
something that I've started doing about 6 months ago with Tina from work, and we literally go. It's not all about cardio. We literally do
Wait,
strength,
yeah, you're doing it.
conditioning, and you know what? I'm better now than I've been in a long time physically,
Yeah.
because I've had issues with my knees, and all the training that we've done, I'm better now.
It's amazing what exercise...
It is.
It really
it's so
is.
important.
And I suppose I'm mindful about my diet.
Yeah.
What I eat, what I drink.
I mean,
So-
I've got arthritis in my joints, again, probably caused by the menopause before, because I wasn't on HRT at the time. But I've got arthritis in both of my ankles, both of my knees, and one side of my hip. But touch wood, since I weight trained, no issues at all. Which
Amazing, yeah.
I went to the doctor to ask for some painkillers, and actually the doctor was really actually quite good, even though I didn't think so at the time, because he said lose some weight and you'll be fine, which was really unhelpful at the time, I felt, but actually he was right. He was
Yeah.
entirely right. Take the pressure off your joints and do some strength training and you'll be far better. And touch wood, I've not had any pain, and I don't take any medication for it. So I think doing those sorts of things as you come through the menopause is really, really positive for your body and everything else, your mental health as well, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's great. I exercise.
You love it, don't you?
Yeah, I do loads of exercise because not cardio. Well, it's a bit of cardio, but yeah, strength stuff. I like feeling strong. And when I was taking the testosterone, I felt so strong. It was amazing.
Wonder Woman.
I felt for a minute, I felt what a man must feel like.
Really?
Oh, it was
So why
amazing.
did you take it?
Because of my libido. So it upset me that I wasn't feeling like that. So I was already on HRT, normal HRT.
Yeah.
And I did some research, went to the doctors, you have to have a blood test for that. And my levels were low, so they gave me it. And it's the male, it's a little packet, which it says all over it for male use only, which I freaked out about, but I rang the doctor and she said, no, it's fine, because you only take an eighth of a packet, whereas a man would take a whole packet, and you put a little bit of gel on your inner thigh. And I had it for about a year and a half. It helped, it totally helped. And I felt, honestly, I could do so many push-ups, which then they retest you though, and my levels were then a bit high, so they made me stop.
And did you have any other symptoms, anything else?
She didn't get a beard.
No, but I did start to get hair on where it was.
you did.
You
Really?
get like thicker hair, and one of my colleagues at work's also using it, and she's but you shave it off. But I suppose the risk if your levels, if I hadn't have come off it, then I potentially could have started to. Your voice can drop, and you can start to get, which I haven't had.
Male pattern baldness as well.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't. So
That's
yeah, you
why
got to
you
be
keep your
careful.
levels within the right,
That's
the
right.
right levels.
Yeah, so my levels are normal now.
But you felt fabulous, didn't
I
you?
felt
Anna?
absolutely fat. Yeah, absolutely great. And I still do feel. To be honest with you, I still feel fabulous.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the normal HRT still, and as far as I'm concerned, we'll always stay on that. And I exercise a lot, and yeah, I feel great, which is why I feel so strongly about talking about it, especially women at a certain level in businesses, because I think you get all that experience, and then you get to your 50s, and the risk is so many women just because they can't cope with the symptoms, and they just fade away, and you're losing all that brilliant knowledge and experience that we've gained. So I feel really strongly that you know, if there's something there, which there is, HRT, that is totally transformational, because the sweating.
Oh, that was
that was my worst symptom as well. But also, I still, don't get me wrong, I still forget things. We all forget things. But you know, sitting in court and forgetting the name of the child that I was talking about in front of about 10 people, including actually I think it was a female judge. I can't remember, obviously. But she, you know, just having to say, I'm really sorry. I've forgotten the name of the child. I mean, that's just dreadful. Those sorts of things made me then go and get some help, and it works. So you know, I think taking the fear out of HRT and the benefits for your health. I know there's a slight increased risk of breast cancer, but then we get checked for that every 3 years or whatever, don't we? Anyway, once you're over 50,
the risk, isn't it?
It's much less than they used to tell us it was, because that was the reason.
There are risks from drinking and eating,
exactly.
and dietary and lifestyle, which we're probably all putting ourselves at much more risk than
exactly.
than HRT.
And it's worth to me that risk because of quality of life while you're fit and healthy, you know. So
I mean, Helen, you've been at the hospice for how many years now? Oh,
38.
Have you? 38
so
years?
I mean, you must have seen a massive change over those years as to how it's now dealt with, the menopause. You've now got somebody like Mel who clearly is very knowledgeable about it, and it's open.
Yes, we are very fortunate that we now have an HR department. I mean, we used to manage HR amongst our directorates before. That's what we had. So there's been a huge sea change about everybody's well-being, full stop. And I think that has made a massive difference to the organisation. Really has. There's far more care with everybody, and that feels as though we should be there anyway, because we are a caring organisation, and we did support each other. But I think because Mel is now employed with us, it's brought it all to the forefront. About our well-being, full stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
which is
so
right.
everything about your mental health, never mind your physical health. So that has been the big change.
Yeah.
I mean, even as we were talking earlier, you know, the sexual harassment training that we're doing at work, all that.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
So is there a lot more dialogue, open
There's
dialogue?
a lot more conversation about it now than there ever was. When I talked about this, when I was before, I had nothing. There was absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody. I didn't go to anybody. And as I say, for me, I had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Did you talk to your friends about it?
I talked to one of my best friends, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I was divorced at that time. And what you said, Mel, I was bringing up 2 children, holding down a job, paying a mortgage. I just got on with it.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what
Everybody did.
Yeah. That's what you did.
Yeah, it was sort of the given. You just had to put up with it and get on with it.
I just didn't know any different.
Whereas nowadays you get a group of women in their 40s and 50s together around a glass of wine. That's all anybody talks about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I noticed that in my early 40s, and we would do the wine and the friends, and everybody shied away from it because it was almost like, oh, I'm not ready to
Not
admit
accepting
that
it. Yeah.
I'm going to that stage of life. So there was a real denial, and then suddenly everybody was like, right, and then everybody started to talk about it. But there was certainly a line where nobody wanted to put themselves in that.
They'd talk about sex at that time.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't talk about
The negative.
No, there wouldn't.
Maybe when the libido dropped, there was space for them.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think that we've got Davina, that programme when Davina McCall did it. I mean, we've got her to thank for that, haven't we? Bless her. But that was the biggest change. That people
effect.
watching that, and including a lot of men if they were enlightened enough. But
you need those celebrities.
You do
to bring it to the forefront, because without that, it's lost. It's not
Yeah.
heard. So the more they do that,
the more we can all.
the more we can all relate.
It's
to
normalising it, isn't
yes,
it?
It is.
Because it's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's just as part, like we were talking before, it's just a part of every female's or most females' lives. And then menopause is just another part of that, another stage of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I think we need to stop it being a medical thing. It's a natural progression, and we just need to.
And
manage
one
it.
of the TV programmes had said that, no, it's not a medical thing, it's a natural progression. And one of our chaps goes, oh, you need to watch that. They're saying don't be medicalising it. So that's not what they're saying.
No.
They're saying it is a natural progression, and it's not always negative for some people. Some people might get out of marriages they shouldn't have been in. Some people might go and change their career because actually they've had enough of this rubbish here and go and do something different. So for some people it's enlightening, but it doesn't mean that it still not can be debilitating.
Yeah,
and parts
absolutely.
of it really debilitating, and for some people, literally ruin their life for a period of time, or make them feel like they're going mad. So sometimes I think people try to then, if there's an opportunity to dismiss, they'll still try and jump on that, and the media has a massive part to play in that. So how they do it, and then how they use that limelight rather than using it in a negative way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the negative is where
The story
spreads
is
faster,
the
doesn't
story.
it? Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah, but and I think because with menopause the symptoms are so varied, and people can have it can, as you said before, it can be completely debilitating. I've had friends who've had really physical weird, like pains, aching, but thinking that panicking that it's something more than, and the medical profession not also. I mean, you have to do the test, I suppose. So I've had people with left shoulder pain seems to be quite a common thing, and then people think it's related to the heart because it's the left side, and they have to have all the tests to make sure, and then it just.
I think
that's what
it's the breast cancer.
Oh, the breast cancer, yeah.
Fallopian. If you had a pregnancy in your fallopian tubes, it used to feel it in your shoulder, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
I've
probably
had that, yeah. Because I've
Oh,
had an
yeah, of
ectopic
course.
pregnancy.
Have you?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did. I've told you that before.
Oh, have
Claire.
you? Oh, I'm menopausal. I can't remember anything. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I had pain in my shoulder. That was the only symptom that I had.
There must be some. So there must be something hormonal related.
Yeah.
to
So if
that
your
left.
ovaries
It's
are
interesting you said about what was it, urticaria?
Oh, you.
Beca-
Yeah.
Because that is something I had.
itchy ears, Helen. Itchy ears.
Well, that's another one.
That's we had that conversation before.
Itchy ears.
Yeah.
That's a
So
new
That
one.
was one of my first
So-
signs.
You could ask my husband and say, what part of Helen's body does itch? And it's my left shoulder. And if you look at my left shoulder now, there's a permanent bruise on my left shoulder.
Really?
And that is purely because of scratching, because when it comes, he could scratch, and I'll say, just keep scratching, don't stop.
Wow.
How?
So that
how
is interesting,
bizarre.
and I've heard you talk about it, but I've not related it until now.
Wonder why the left shoulder is such
I don't
a
know,
thing.
because
I
I-
was it to do with the fallopian
And,
thing, the
and
ovaries?
they did give me some cream. They said, just put some cream on it. That's all I had, put cream on it. And occasionally I still have that now.
That's
Just
weird.
that left shoulder.
Well, my left shoulder, I got frozen shoulder. I had to have an injection in it. Do
Well, there
you
you
think
go. Yeah.
that can't be the same? Surely.
Well, it could be.
do you get that in all areas?
Yeah, so I get itchy ears, and that was started when I was about 44, and I still get itchy ears.
Internally itchy. Or
Really itchy ears.
Inside?
I would stick anything in my ear to itch
Oh,
it.
that's me as well. I just thought that was me.
No,
I
it-
stick
and
all
you've
sorts
got-
in paper
You've got
clips and everything.
estrogen. Yeah, you've got estrogen receptors in your ears.
But do you know what? When you start and get that,
So
you
it's like
lose.
a dryness.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's me.
You lose your hearing from sticking too much stuff in it.
I know. I stick
So-
paper clips in.
I remember
that,
going to a consultant only because I ended up with an ear infection. I know we're going off it, an ear infection. And she said to me, what you now have lost is all the little hairs that are in there that protect it because, and I have an itchy ear. And what she said to me, you put in, and I have E45. Don't anybody take this as gospel, but for me, I have some E45 cream, and I know they say don't put cotton buds in your ear. I just put a little bit of E45 in my ear, and it takes away
Yeah,
that
I do.
itch.
I use
Do you know?
Dermabase.
How bizarre.
Do you know, I can't believe that. I actually bought a camera to stick in my ear because I wondered what was in it. So I've
if
got a
you
camera.
just-
Someone messaged me the other day and,
Yeah.
said, "Did you know it was menopause symptoms?" I said, "Yes,
I
did."
did
There
not
you
know
go.
this. This is a
Itchy
new one
ears.
on me. We've learnt something today, Amanda.
We learn something
Itchy
every
ears.
time.
The urticaria.
Trust me, 45, just a little bit, and do you know what? It stops it itching. And because you can itch it sometimes till it almost bleeds.
Oh, I do.
So if you do that and then it goes away.
Pen tops, everything.
I have never had itchy ears.
Have you not?
No.
You'll be grateful.
I'm very grateful.
I just thought it
I've
was
got, other
me.
I've got other things that might be itchy, but not my ears.
But itching skin in general, it can be menopause because
Really?
it's the dryness. Yeah. I can tell by my shins if I've used enough estrogen. They're nice and shiny when my estrogen levels are good, and then they go flaky, and then I'll go,
Really?
I don't think I did my enough gels last week. And there's a correlation.
But isn't that equally enough that you're drinking enough fluid and water?
Yeah, but for me, I there is definitely a correlation.
Wow.
But a lot of ladies have itchy skin. With my urticaria, I get it on my palms and my soles of my feet, and then it spreads all over my body.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It's horrible. It looks hideous.
Well, that's explained all of my itching.
Don't start itching now.
Don't
Don't put anything in your ears.
No, I haven't got any itching there. No.
I can't believe that's a symptom. I've had that since I have. Yeah,
It's a
recently.
revelation.
I need to stop sticking things in it.
Well, only E45 by the sound.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
There are other products available, as they say.
Yes. Oh, yes. Don't advertise. We'll get E45 to sponsor us. Right. Well, that's been fantastic. I love learning new things. It's interesting. Every time we speak to somebody, there's something else comes out, which goes to show how varied the symptoms are of menopause. So thank you very much for your time, ladies. It's been lovely chatting to you, and we'll
Thank you.
see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Hot Flush Lawyers podcast. Please be sure to follow and share this podcast and join in the conversation on our socials. We look forward to sharing our next episode with you very soon.